Hi, and welcome to another video by Jimthecarguy. Today we have a 2007, it's a Mazda 3. The customer complaint is that they were actually driving a couple of days ago, 3 days ago to be exact, and the check engine light came on. They said the engine ran decent, didn't feel bad, but today she brings it in to me to scan it to find out what's going on with it, and lo and behold, the check engine light is out. So we're going to put the computer on it. We're going to see what the code was. We'll probably find it in the historical data, but let's take a look at it and we'll see what's going on. So let's go inside and we'll hook up to it. Okay, so we got the vehicle running now. You know what? Before we do anything, let's see what the codes are all about here first. We're going to use the snap-on today. So let's see what's going on. No communications because I just turned the key off. Let me just set it up and we'll come right back. Okay, so here we go. We have everything set inside the computer now. We're going to go into pending codes. We have no pending codes, which I didn't expect we were going to find. Memory codes is our historical data. Okay, so we have the the too low. The engine temperature is too low, and most of the time with something like this, usually it's just your thermostat is an issue where the thermostat may have stuck in the open position, especially being that the problem is not there right now. But we're going to go into the historical data to try to find out when it actually took place. Okay, so the temperature was 159 degrees. Now the lady told me this thing was on for 3 days, but it turned off. So we're going to go back into the data stream right now and we'll find out what's going on. We'll see what the temperature is now, and then we'll let it run for a little bit just to check the temperature again. I have a feeling is that we're not going to see anything because, like I said, it seems to be working properly now. All right, so we're at 132 degrees. Okay, we're going to start this up for a second. We're going to let this run for a little bit. We're going to watch this engine temperature here increase. And then we'll make sure that the cooling fans are not staying on, because if the cooling fans stay on, that can actually cause this temperature to stay too low at the same time. Cooling fans being on all the time is never a good thing. So, all right, we're going to let it run for a little bit, and we'll come back as soon as it warms up to normal operating temperature. Normal operating temperature is probably going to be somewhere around 200 degrees, so we'll come back as soon as it warms up a little bit. Okay, we've had it running for about probably about 5 minutes now, so temperature's up to like 177. Let's take a look underneath the hood and make sure the cooling fans are not running, and we'll go from there. Okay. As you can see, the cooling fans are not running, so that's a good thing. Most likely it's going to be just a bad thermostat. I'm just going to open this up for 1 second. You want to be real careful when you open this up. I'm 99% sure it's a bad thermostat, but we're going to just try one thing here just to make sure. We're going to stick a normal thermostat in here just to see our temperature is actually in the engine itself. think we're going to lose our battery power. I think it's going to cut off, so okay, sorry, we lost our battery power. Okay, and as you can see, the temperature of the coolant itself, it's 197, 198. It's almost 200 degrees. Let's go inside and check our temperature in the engine itself. 201. So right now the problem is not happening, but most likely it's going to be the thermostat. So we're going to make a phone call now, get a price on the thermostat, and then we'll call the customer and see what they want to do. I just want to point this out to you also. As you can see, the cooling fan's not on, which is a good thing, because if that cooling fan stayed on, that would account for the low engine temperature, but that's not the case here, so we're in good shape. Again, we're at 200 degrees, so all right, let's make a phone call and we'll see what we're going to do. Work out a number. David, how you doing? It's Jim. Hey Dave, 2007 Mazda 3 2.0. Price and availability on the thermostat. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it comes with a thermostat with the housing. Okay. Okay, is that something you stock? You do? Very good. All right, let me just call the customer and I'll buzz you right back, Dave. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye. I kind of remember this from another vehicle we had, is that you cannot buy just the thermostat. It comes as the thermostat and that housing over the top of it too, because that housing is made of plastic, and I think that the thermostat is actually bonded to that housing. So, all right, let me work out a number. It actually wasn't as bad. List price was $81. My cost is 40 some odd dollars. So let me call the customer and run the numbers past her, and we'll see what we're going to do. All right, let's give her a call. That's not good, no answer. Looks like I may have to make an executive decision. Voicemail, 1 second. That's frustrating. Not only is it a cell phone, and you would think that they would answer the cell phone, but the mailbox is full and I can't leave a message for her either. So we're going to make an executive decision here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to replace that thermostat anyway, because what are you going to do? It's got to be done. So let me order it up and we'll continue. David, how you doing? It's Jim. Hey Dave, I do need that thermostat housing and assembly, please. Can you send me a cap, a radiated cap? I may be returning that, I'm not sure. And yeah, for the Mazda. And also, what type of antifreeze does that take? Probably just the regular ethylene glycol stuff, I'm thinking. All right, then you know what? Don't worry about that. That's okay. Yeah. That was just something just in case. So. Okay, so somebody put the wrong stuff in here then. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I'm pretty sure you do because I seem to remember getting it once before for another vehicle. Can you send me up a is it straight or is it cut? Yeah. Yeah. Is the antifreeze 100% or is it 50/50? Really? You know what? Send me 2 gallons. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dave. Bye now. Okay. So somebody put the wrong antifreeze in this vehicle. This is actually the green antifreeze that's in there. It's it's actually the regular ethylene glycol, so it's the wrong antifreeze. What belongs in here is it has to be the genuine Mazda antifreeze. A lot of people say, oh, you can use the universal or whatever. Me here, I like to use whatever it calls for, and don't play around. So, all right, let's get this up on the side here. This is what we're going to need to do. Actually, I'll bring the procedure up on the computer here and I'll show it to you. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to drain the entire cooling system. We are going to disconnect the battery in this particular vehicle, and the reason we're going to do that, that's the customer calling me back. I know it. Sure enough. All right, don't go nowhere. Let me talk to her.
Nice.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, that phone call was the customer. I told her what was going on, and she said to go right ahead and take care of it. So, like I was saying, we are going to disconnect the battery in this. The reason we're going to disconnect the battery is the thermostat housing is up here. The alternator is directly right there. So if we get any antifreeze from here down into there, we could have an issue. So we are going to disconnect the battery. But let me show you the procedure I got on a computer here. And then we're going to stop BS, and then we're going to get out there and we're going to get this job done, and we're going to get it out the door. So, all right, let me show you what it looks like, and then we're going to get started. This is the procedure for the job, and as you can see, that's the thermostat right in here. It comes as a complete assembly. The alternator is directly right there, so we are going to, be careful with that. Basically, what it says, it tells you right up here exactly step by step what to do. Drain the coolant, of course. Disconnect the battery. Position the drive belt out of the way and remove the drive belt tensioner. Now you're probably saying, oh, why do you got to remove the tensioner? From what I recall, that if you don't take this tensioner out, you're not going to get this assembly out between here and where the tensioner is right here. No big deal. The tensioner is only a couple of bolts and it comes right out. But this will not fit through that opening without removing that tensioner. So, all right, let's get out there. Let's drain this out. And let's get started. Okay, now obviously we have the car up in the air, and we're going to drain the radiator out, but to drain the radiator, we're going to have to pull off this shield underneath here. No big deal. We're just going to take out all of these bolts here, and then half of them are missing anyway. So we're going to take this down so we can get up over to here so we can drain this out. So I'm not going to bore you with taking that cover down. I think you know how to do that. So let's get the cover down and then we'll come right back. Okay, now that we have this cover off underneath the bottom here, you can see that's where we're going to drain the antifreeze out. It is going to be a little bit messy, so I'm going to do this off the camera. I'm going to just take that little piece out right there, and then we're going to drain it into a suitable container. So, all right, let me finish draining it out, and we'll continue. Okay, so now, just so you know, what I do is I'll take out the plug on that radiator on that side over there, but leave the cap on right here, because as soon as you pull this out, if you have this cap off, you're going to take a bath in antifreeze. What I do is I take this out first, put a bucket under it, and then open up the cap, and then the antifreeze will come gushing out. I don't know if you can hear that, but you hear the antifreeze? Because what happens, this creates a vacuum inside the engine so that the antifreeze doesn't come pouring out all over the place. So while this is draining out, what are you doing looking down here? Come on. While this is draining out, I want to make sure that everything is totally out of the system so that when we pull that hose off, we don't have a problem. So right now we're going to stop until that finishes draining, and we're going to go get a cup of coffee and we'll come right back. Okay, this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to need to get the job apart. You're going to need a couple of wrenches, either 13 or 14 millimeter, a set of sockets, a pair of pliers, a couple of extensions, maybe possibly a 1/4 inch set, and believe it or not, you're going to use a bungee cord to save from the belt popping off down the bottom. You don't have to do this, but if it saves you a step, I'm all for saving a step. All right, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to come over here and we're going to pull this cover off so we can gain access inside here. Now, remember what I was telling you about the getting that thermostat housing out? Let me get a light in here. Remember what I was telling you about that thermostat housing? You see the hose down there with the thermostat, with the plastic housing? It's not going to fit through this opening right inside here. So that's why we need to remove this tensioner assembly so we can get that out of there. So, all right, let's continue with it. Okay, the way you get this off is just grab it firmly and just pull it. Good thing that light bounces, huh? That's what I like about these things. They're pretty much indestructible. They take a beating and they're good. All right, so we're going to remove this fan belt right now. We're just going to get on here with either a 13 or a 14 millimeter so we can actually release the belt and push that back out of the way. So it's going to be a little tight for you to see in there, but I'll do the best I can to try to film this for you. So, all right, let's continue. Okay, the way you release the belt is you just put your wrench on here like this, you pry it back, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down and take the belt off of the air conditioner compressor. Okay. All right, so then we'll put the belt out of the way like this. Now, you don't really need the bungee cord to keep it back, but if it falls in your way like that, you can just pull it back out of the way. Just put the bungee cord on it, you could just pull it back and secure it out of the way, just so you can work a little bit here. You don't have to, but you know, you could. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off those bolts. You see these 3 bolts right here? We're going to remove these 3. I think they're probably either 12 or 13 millimeter. Or 12 millimeter. Now, you'll see I use a flexible head ratchet. You don't need to use a flexible head. You could use whatever you have. I just find it a little easier to work with. And once you break them loose, you can pretty much take them out by hand. They really come out fairly easy once they're loose. Now you want to make sure that these bolts are actually the same length, because sometimes you'll find the bolt that's a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. So we're going to be careful where we take these out until we know for sure. They're probably going to be the same, but we'll check just to make sure. That's the 2 bottom. For a second, and this one is the upper. So we know all 3 of the bolts are exactly the same. We just put them off to the side for now. And now the next thing we're going to do, let's see if we can get in here so you can see. I hope you can see okay there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these 2 hose clamps right here, and we're going to get in here with a regular pair of pliers to disconnect that. Now, if this connector is in our way, we will move it, but we'll see how that goes. And we just get in here with a pair of pliers. I'll get in here with a light so you can see what I'm doing. I hope you can see that. We just get on here with a pair of pliers, take that clamp, and we're just going to move it back a little bit, and then we'll release it, and then we'll just make sure the hose is loose, and we're going to, let's get you in here so you can see what I'm doing here. The other clamp is actually right here. That clamp right there, we're going to release that clamp also. We're going to slide it back on the hose back a little further here, and then we'll take these 2 hoses off, and then we're going to remove that bolt. Looks like an 8 millimeter here, here, and there's probably one more on the bottom. So I hope you can see okay. Okay. Now we're going to put that clamp back now so we can remove that clamp. clamp. Let me just do it and then we'll come back and I'll show you that. See, I moved that clamp up further this way here instead of pushing it back further because it was really tight. So now we're going to pull those hoses off and then we'll continue with that. Now I did already turn or twist the 5/8 hose. So we're just going to keep slight pressure on it. We're going to pull it off like this. Let's put them off to the side. And then we're going to take our other hose off like this. Alright, you see the importance of draining the cooling system out. I'll take this clamp right like that. Let's get it right down here maybe. I don't know if you can see any better there. This is going to be a tight squeeze for me to film it. I hope you can see. I'm going to take out those 3 bolts right there first, and we'll remove that thermostat housing. I'm just going to push this hose off to the side so I can get in there. I'm going to try getting in there with a 1/4 inch set. To try to see if I could film it for you, but I'm not sure. Okay, now we'll take that thermostat housing out. It's just stuck on there at this point. It's already loose, so we're just going to crack it loose. And we'll take it out. And that is the old thermostat. And let's get a light over here so we can see. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. Let's get a light over here so I can see it, show you a little bit better. You see the side of the thermostat right here? You can see where this thermostat is binding up against right there. You can see the marks where it was actually touching. That's what causes it to stick. Right now it's actually working properly, but that's what causes them to stick. It binds up against that piece right there. So, all right, let's clean this up a little bit. We're going to clean it up with a scraper, and then we'll put our new thermostat housing back on. Okay, well, I hope you can see okay here. It's going to be a little bit tight, but what we're going to do now is we're going to put this thermostat housing back in the way it came out. Remember, it came out like this, so that's the way we're going to put it back in. We did do this bolt last, so we're going to put that one in first. I always like to do the most difficult out first, so we'll catch everything else and then we'll put the most difficult one in last. Alright, so we're going to put this down in here. We're just going to lay it in where it belongs. Get my light here. Back to what we're doing. Okay, we're going to tighten that lower bolt up first. I only use a 1/4 inch ratchet because you don't want to take a chance on snapping anything, because you're only screwing into plastic. And then you equally tighten them up, or snug them in, I should say. Once I got them all snug, Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to tighten everything all the way. Okay, so now our thermostat housing is in all the way. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to if I can reuse these clamps, I usually try to reuse the old clamps because I like these spring clamps that spring back. So we're going to attempt to reuse these clamps. I'm going to put the clamp on to the hose itself. And then we're going to squeeze it and slide the clamp into the right position. Now there is a special tool you can buy to do this, but this one is in a pretty easy spot, so it's not that bad. Now you see I'm squeezing the hose clamp at the same time and pushing the hose on. So that's on all the way now. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to reattach that little 5/8 hose. We're going to push it all the way up. You're going to push the hose all the way in until you get to that little stopper right on the top right here. You'll see a little stopper on the top that it touches into. And now we'll slide that clamp back up into its position. Trade sides. Where it came off down there. See? All right, so now that's all done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our tensioner back up here. Now if you disconnected this switch here, you want to re-plug it in at this point right now. I did not. So we're going to put our tensioner back on there. All right. Just put it back in. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the fan belt back in its position. We're going to make sure it's on the crankshaft down on the bottom. Okay. All right, then you want to make sure, look around down on the bottom, make sure your belt is in its correct position. If the belt is off just a little bit, you can get in there with a long screwdriver, pry on it, you could push it back in. That's not the case here, it's actually in where it belongs. All right, everything is nice and tight. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of our tools out of the way, of course. Get everything out of the way. We're going to put our cover back on. That's it. All right, we're going to grab our antifreeze now and we're going to start filling this up. Okay. Now, you always want to make sure you use the correct antifreeze for any job. This calls for you'll always see the ones that'll say Mazda or whatever it says on it. It tells you right down inside here. Tells you right here all the cars that it's good for, and Mazda being one of them. All right, so now we're going to fill this up all the way, and just so you know, we did close that drain valve down on the bottom. Okay, now this is actually, it's a concentrate, so we are going to actually dilute this down. You want to do it a 50-50 mix of water and antifreeze. So, all right, let's put the bottom back together, and then we'll continue when it's by the door. Okay, now that we got the cover on the bottom put back up, it's actually, the bottom was held up with zip ties. Unfortunately, I had to put it back the same way it came down. But we got the cover back up underneath the bottom. We have it filled up with antifreeze. We're going to back it to the door right now. We're going to let it run a little bit, and we're going to monitor the temperature to see what's going on. So, all right, let's back it to the door and make sure we're okay. Okay, now we're just going to clear the codes out of it before we run it. Alright, we're going to start it up. We're going to let it run for a little bit. Now you want to make sure you have your cap on outside. We got our cap on. Now we're going to let it run for a little bit until it warms up and gets that antifreeze circulating through there, and then we'll watch the temperature to make sure that it's in the normal range. All right, now you definitely want to make sure that you've got no leaks on your thermostat housing or your hoses, and of course you want to make sure that you have no leak down the bottom from your valve that you reinstalled. Alright, let's go inside. Alright, we're going to let it run for a little bit. Once it warms up, then we'll come back and we'll make sure it's okay. Okay, it's been running now for probably about 10 minutes, and as you can see, it's up to 213 degrees. So, you know, we're looking pretty good. Temperature there is in the normal range. Now we're just going to wait for the coolant fan to turn on. So let's go out and take a peek out front. Okay. Our antifreeze is up to its normal range. Now we're just waiting for that cooling fan to turn on. Oh, there we go. Cooling fan's on. We'll take a look at the temperature inside. Alright, 213 degrees. Now the fan should run for just a couple of minutes and then shut back off. Let's just make sure. That's it. Alright, let's take a look here. $208. Alright, so that's it. We're all set. We know that the cooling fan turned on, and we know that the cooling fan turned off. We have the temperature now up in the normal range. The cooling fan turns on at about 212, 214, and it shuts off at about 208. So that looks like it's in a perfect range. So that's it. We will check the antifreeze after this cools down again, just to make sure it's in the normal full range. And that's it. We're done. All right. So we're going to take this out for a test drive, make sure it's okay, which I'm sure it will be. And that's it. On to the next one. All right. So any questions or comments? Anybody wants to talk to me about anything? Send me an email. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.